All right, good afternoon. Welcome. Today's Tuesday, October 30th. Welcome to the Trade, Travel, and Tourism Committee. I'm joined by Council Member Paul Krikorian. I'm Joe Buscaino. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for those who are listening to Council Audio. All three of you. Just kidding. The first order of business, we can open, even though it's a special meeting, we're not to have general public comment. Anyone here for general public comment?
No, sir.
Okay, we will
can
close.
Open and close multiple comment item if you wish at this time.
Let us do that. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. We'll do that as well. So with that, if I can, Mr. Krikorian, direct your attention to today's agenda. And I believe Mr. Bonin will soon join us, and if he does, we can redo the items. On consent, take 3 through 11. Would you like to hold any of those?
No objection.
Okay, hearing none, then we'll just approve items 3 through 11 on consent.
Yes, sir.
And let's take item number 2. This is a continuation. We continue this item from October 2nd.
Yes, sir.
Read that into the
City
record.
Clerk. Item 2, motion Buscaino Martinez instructing the LA DWP to report relative to land swap negotiations with the Port of Los Angeles. The next steps required to execute the land swap agreement, any outstanding roadblocks preventing the execution of the land swap agreement, and the capacity of and current and future usage of the LA DWP tank farm in Wilmington.
Okay, so Mr. Krikorian, if I can just to recall your memory here. There's an issue in dealing with LADWP involving some land there that has prevented the progress of the waterfront development on the Wilmington side. So I'm hoping that we have an update here and some significant progress.
Sure.
And,
Masood Saburi with LADWP and
Mike Galvin with Port of Los Angeles.
Great.
so the 311 agreement was is in a final draft and was sent to PODA last week, and the city attorney is reviewing it right now. We'll get it back, and we should be able to finalize it fairly fast.
So it's in the hands of the Port City Attorney?
Yes, so that's the 3-year plus 2 1-year options for us to be able to go in and construct the project on both of the main parcels that DWP is providing us. So we have that in process right now as far as being reviewed. We're also taking the term sheet that encapsulates the whole transaction between LADWP and the Port of Los Angeles going to our board in closed session this week. So once we get approval there, we'll sign off on that, send it back to LADWP for them to sign off on it, so that'll memorialize the general understanding on all pieces of the
Great.
project. And but the most important piece is the 311 that Masood mentioned, and getting that process, and then we can build from that.
Wonderful. And just to remind me, we don't need to go to the 2 respective commissions for approval, or do we?
Right.
We do not. Okay. Fantastic.
Yeah, on the 311, on DWP side, they may not need to. I'm not sure on my side. I think we may need to go to our commission.
Okay. Okay. Questions? Nope. Really happy that the progress you made here. I really appreciate the 2 departments working hand in hand so that we can move forward on giving Wilmington, the residents of the city of Los Angeles, a waterfront that's...
Can we go back to what Mike just mentioned?
Yes,
For
please.
the term sheet, we don't have to go to the...
For the term sheet, you don't.
Right.
But for 311...
The 311, the lease.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
That's-
Our term sheet, we're just going to our board. Normal course of action for us. It's not a requirement, but how we normally get them to approve a term sheet is we
Okay.
give it to them in closed session, but we won't be going to open session with that.
Fantastic.
The same with us.
Okay. So with that, let's continue this item until our next T3 committee meeting. Really appreciate the work.
Sure.
And looking forward to the ongoing progress. Thank you. Okay, item number 1.
Item 1, Board of Airport Commissioners and CIA reports relative to resolution number 26617 for a LAWA, Design, Build, Finance, Operate, Maintain agreement with LA Gateway Partners covering the landside agreement modernization programs consolidated rent-a-car facility project at LAX.
Fantastic, exciting progress on the LAMP, and happy to see this critical piece of development that's taking place here. Perfect timing, Mr. Bonin. We're now joined by Mr. Bonin.
Development, suddenly I appeared. Yeah, you have all of mine.
I'll take it. Gladly take it. So we've been awaiting this item and been following it through the commission process. And again, Deborah Flint, America's Airport Director. Amazing work that's been done leading up to this point. So tell us more, and I know this is a multi-billion-dollar project that's before us, and if you can just walk us through it.
Sure.
Thank you.
So much, Councilman. Thank you to the entire committee and the council for the work over so many years, both before me and in these last recent years, in support of our development, our selection process, procurement, and ultimately to where we are today. As you know, we had made a project selection and entered into an early works agreement with the recommended developer. And today we're asking you, this committee, to pass forward for council approval tomorrow the actual design, build, finance, operate, and maintain agreement for the period of 28 years with this development team. As you know, as part of the LAMP program, the Consolidated Rent-A-Car Facility is one of the most important elements. It is the element that will be a significant contributor to reducing traffic to the airport and in the surrounding communities. The rental car business as a whole is also very important to us. It is our largest source of non-aeronautical revenue for the airport, so it's important capital contribution. And the LAX market is important to the country. It is the second largest airport market in the entire country, very important to the rental car business. When we look at the vision of LAX to be a gold standard airport, one of the critical elements that is missing is that 13 out of 15 of the other large hub peer airports, if you will, all have consolidated rent-a-car facilities, creating a smooth, seamless, logical, understandable experience for domestic and international passengers. So this anchor project for the LAMP is critically important for us to move forward on. We will just go through the brief. Jake Adams, as you know, who has been a key leader in the LAMP program, and we're appreciative to him and the entire LAWA team that's here today, and those that aren't, for their efforts that have brought us this far. We'll just go through a few slides to
Please.
walk through the program.
Great. And I just want to echo Mrs. Flunt's excitement, because today not only are we putting the final piece of the overall LAMP program in place, but we're actually finally going to be able to move forward with a consolidated rental car facility at LAX.
Yeah.
So it's a truly exciting day for staff. With that said, Deborah covered a lot of the business case. There continues to be a very strong business case to support this project. And also there is continued demand that's being demonstrated by the rental car companies. So we are firmly confident that this will be a great project. That's one that's really needed going forward. As such, we started this process over 2 years ago, and let's get to the right slide here. We started this project over 2 years ago, issuing a request for qualifications almost to the day. And over the past 2 years, we've had an incredibly robust and thorough selection process. We have actually happy to report that process was extremely successful, and it yielded a very clear result. We had 4 proposal teams that were pre-qualified. All 4 teams submitted proposals. 2 of those teams passed our Tier 1 technical criteria. 2 of those teams passed our affordability limit. But actually only 1 team did both, and that team was the LA Gateway Partners team. And that team had the second highest technical score and the lowest price. That team's a large team. It's over 42 entities that compose that team, but I'll go over quickly with you some of the key players on that team. On the equity side, there is Fengate, who is certainly one of the premier North American P3 investors and asset managers. On the contractor side, we have PCL. PCL, again, lots of P3 experience throughout North America, lots of experience here in Los Angeles with the Staples Center, as well as LA Live, and in fact at LAX for our Midfield Satellite Concourse project. The designer, PGAL, they are probably the best and most well-known ConRack design firm in the U.S. They have a tremendous relationship with the rental car companies as well. I think most of you probably know AC Martin, a strong local architectural firm. And then also, since there's such a large operations and maintenance component to this project, we're really happy to see that Johnson Controls is going to take the lead as the O&M provider. They are arguably the largest and most experienced P3 in the global market today. And lastly, MVI Holdings. They're a specialty firm that specializes in managing quick turnaround areas for Conrex, and they're currently managing 7 of those projects in the U.S. today. I won't go into all the details about the facility, but this team did present a layout that was extremely functional and future flexible. We actually, in our original proof of concept that LAX put together, we envisioned the Conrack to be 3 independent facilities to support the 3 primary rack functions: the ready return, the idle storage, and the quick turnaround area. This team came in with an innovative approach to combine 2 of those buildings into a single building, and then they elevated and built an additional floor onto that facility. That allowed us to reduce the overall footprint of the facility by 22%. So if you look on the screen, you see that there's a large parking area on the south, which is the bottom of the screen. That at-grade parking is really our future flexibility. So in the future, if rental car transactions increase, we can use that area to build an addition onto the building. If rental car transactions decrease, we can put those employee parkings in the facility and then redevelop that entire 11 acres. So incredibly flexible design. This contract itself, as Deborah mentioned, 28-year agreement. Approximately 4 years of that are construction. The other 4 is operations and maintenance. The total value of this contract is $2,028,302,301. There's a couple of critical milestones built into the Conrack. The first one is that the Conrack developer has to turn over the APM core station to the APM developer in August of 2021. And that's the amount of time that's needed by the APM developer to be able to do all of its fit out of the station, testing, and certification by CPUC. And since that exists on the 5th level of the Conrack, obviously the developer has to have that ready. The second milestone is actually the final completion date, which lines up with the APM completion, which is March 31st of 2023. As I mentioned, 24 years of operations and maintenance. This developer is responsible for almost everything. I say almost because the racks do have some limited small maintenance, such as janitorial services. And similar to the APM, we have built in a performance regime into this contract. And what that does is that provides for penalties, financial penalties to the developer for poor performance. In addition to that, they do collect non-compliance points, which that is a series of kind of progressive corrective measures that bring on additional oversight. And in the worst possible case, it does lead to termination, but we never want to get there. So it's really an incentive for the developer to not just correct problems as they occur, but try to prevent them from occurring in the first place. So with that, we are here today to request approval of this agreement. Just to walk you through a couple of quick steps, we will be at City Council tomorrow. And if all goes well, that will allow us to complete commercial close in early November. And then that will allow us to do financial close in early December, which really kicks off our ability to get going on this project. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. So we're doing everything we can to bring light rail into our airport, and it's happening. We're not doing everything we can. It's actually, we're doing it, right? We're also finding ways to get cars off our roads. Do you think this investment will get us toward having fewer cars on the road? Even that we're kind of like we're advocating for the use of cars, knowing that we have now another option, a light rail option coming into our airport. Just give me your thoughts on that.
So the area where the rental car center is in the station that is actually adjacent to the Metro Transit Center. What I view this as a full mobility hub with lots of customer and mobility choices, from using Metro and other regional buses that will be, logically located with proper information to make a choice. Or, of course, we want people to get on the APM from the Metro system or from the rental car facility and use that mode to get into the airport. And as we said, we are building this for the future. That could include, the distant future, maybe it's not so distant, of future autonomous
Right,
vehicles
right.
as well as other modes of transportation. This is all changing so rapidly. But this, in the fact that it's co-located with the Metro AMC station is not about an airport station and a metro station, but it's a City of Los Angeles mega hub for multiple transportation choices. So I believe it responds to a number of needs.
Sure.
There is still a car culture and a demand for cars,
Right.
for rental
Still
cars.
have to recognize that.
Proves
Sure.
some of the challenges that come with that, but at the same time offers what we want: very reliable, highly communicable, communicated information about your choice of travel.
Right. Multimodal city, multimodal airport. Of
Right.
course, it's more of a regional asset as well. Folks coming into LAX might need to get to San Bernardino, and there's no light rail out there.
Right.
At
And,
least
and the bus, and even the buses system, right?
Mhm.
Whether it's obviously the large expansion of
Yeah.
rail that's happening in the region,
Mhm.
but also some of the regional bus systems that exist today will be served from that facility
You can
as
take
well.
Metrolink.
Oh, you still can, right? That's true.
I thought you wanted
Your
everybody to
light
go to
rail
San
needs.
Pedro, not San Bernardino.
No, what- Absolutely. I like your frame of mind, Mike. Let me also with green infrastructure. We looking at plug-in. Can you explain or walk us through
Absolutely.
what the plan is for adding cleaner fuel vehicles at the site?
Yeah, in fact, this, from the sustainability perspective, this particular firm, we're going to be putting 4.7 megawatts of solar panels on the roof of this facility. They're all putting in, I think it's 10% chargers for every single space in the building, plus building infrastructure to support future expansion of that electric charging. They did a pretty significant energy study and how to reduce the energy usage of this facility by about 70%. So the team put a lot of thought into that. With respect to transitioning to cleaner vehicles, I think that will be naturally happening through the rental car agency. We know that they're already looking at providing fleet management for autonomous vehicles and electric vehicles.
Sure.
So this facility is ideal for that type of operation.
Fantastic. Any parking for scooters here? No, just kidding.
Today.
I'll hand it over to Mr. Bonnet.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation. I was, as Jake was starting his presentation, I was trying to Google quickly to figure out if it was 2001 or 2002 when the Conrack was first discussed by Jim Hahn.
I think you're right. I think it was 2001, but it was called the Ground Transportation Center back then.
Yeah.
You're right.
And this has been a long time in coming, and I cannot tell you how happy I am to see us get here. A couple notes and a couple questions. One, I just want to compliment you and the team at the airport on the way we've got these huge projects, and the way you have, I think, structured the contracts, I think, have been really well done. And I'm really happy to see that the APM first, and then on this one, and I think we're doing a good job on this. This probably isn't going to reduce vehicle trips, but I do think it is going to reduce traffic. I don't think it's the main purpose of it, but it will certainly have a benefit for my constituents. I've seen in the 17 decades since this was first proposed, I've seen other airports do this, and my family's in Boston, so I've seen the difference and the ease for me when I'm renting a car back there. You don't have to drive around and get lost in a neighborhood you don't understand. They're usually not particularly obvious locations, and that causes the impact in the residential area. So it's simpler, it's more efficient, it's more convenient, and the benefit, in addition to reducing some of the neighborhood cut-through traffic and the resulting emissions, is the impact in the CTA. I mean, what is the percentage, do we think, of the congestion caused by the competing shuttles going around? Isn't it like 15% or something like that?
I mean, because the rental car vehicles themselves are very large. They're the equivalent of like 3 times just one single personal occupancy vehicle. So it'll be.
And they're slow and they're bulky and it's hard to maneuver around. So this is going to be good. Shortly before I came up here, when I was in the elevator, I got a text from one of my staff members that says that DMV has permitted Waymo to operate 40 robot cars in the state of California. So changes in transportation are coming. We will have, by the time this is built, there'll probably be a lot of autonomous vehicles. And I think it's hard to predict what impact that'll have on the rental car industry. If it turns out in 15 years there's not much of a rental car industry left, what options do we have for this? How is this designed so it can be repurposed?
You know, of the wonderful things that I have the privilege to do here at LAX, developing a rental car facility at that point in time gave me a lot of consternation. Thank you. Those points, of course, are what we have to think about. So we've done a couple things. You know, some private consultation with the large four rental car entities, some public, some private, to really understand how they saw future and adapting to a changing future. What I can share with you that several of them are actually partners, investors, and stakeholders officially with industries and companies that are investing. Even in Waymo, as you said, they actually have a rental car partner and investor with one of the larger rental car businesses because they see the future. What they do at the end of the day is they're a very effective fleet manager. And they do that both for corporations as well as for the individual consumer. They are very bullish about their ability to be able to adapt to autonomous vehicles and offer that to the public through these facilities in a way that may go beyond the way vehicles are leased or rented today just for a traveler, but for day-to-day consumption and for day-to-day use. So they are very focused on adapting. They actually believe that this facility is not large enough for the future and the needs for this region. That will remain to be seen. If they happen to be wrong, we have built in business protections. We built the financial model based on a very conservative base case where the market would actually decline to ensure that we could still afford it. The worst case scenario at the point where this facility, say in 15 years, was no longer really affordable for us actually presents the opportunity for us to take back the space for Lawa's use. And as said, there are a number of scenarios of how we decouple current either surface parking lots that we own or even older parking garages that are on our campus, which we have many, and aggregate those lots into this particular facility and then reuse those spaces for higher and better purposes. So those create other development opportunities long-term for the airport. Those are certainly not in our plan today.
Yeah.
The success of the rental cars is very important to us, but we have built that backstop for the future should that become an eventuality.
When's the target completion date?
March 31st, 2023. Not that we're being specific.
Sure. We are counting every day. Every day that goes by, we're like, oh, one less day to get it done.
Thank you, Mr. Bonham. Mr. Krikorian?
Well, I hope we are being very specific, because in a P3, I hope that risk falls entirely on them if they don't make that deadline. So they'll be strongly incentivized to get it done. I echo my colleagues' comments and praise and thanks in getting this point. The one piece of information I don't have in front of me here, and maybe we've seen it previously, but I don't recall it, is the scoring on the RFP. Because I see the criteria here, and I'd like to know where it is that this bidder fell short on the technical qualifications part.
Well, Jake is pulling up the details.
Okay.
So it was almost as good as what we had with the APM. This was the second ranked out of 4 in terms of the technical scores, this proposer, but they were in the kind of the top 2. And this was this developer had the best price of the 2 when it was going through.
And I would just, I'll attempt to flash this, but these 2 columns on this side are the 2 top proposers. And you can see the green is very good, the yellow is mediocre. So they're pretty close. So the scoring differential was not that great between the 2. I do know that the second place team had a little better approach relative to constructability. They took a completely different tack. They were going to use a precast precast structure throughout. This team elected to go with a cast-in-place structure. So there's some constructability differences where that team scored higher. In some cases, their facility was a little more user-friendly. They had a little bit wider drive aisles, etc. But again, the teams were very, very close on the technical.
Okay.
I will share, I can share with you the ranking order of all four. Actually, no, I'm not.
Yeah, it was actually
That.
Plenary was number 1,
Number 1, Gateway.
LAGP number 2, LA Consolidated Solutions 3, and Conrad Partners 4.
Okay. And without going into all the details of the concession agreement, I'm less concerned about that than I might be on a typical procurement, because if there are any failures in the constructability side, any delays, whatever, I'm assuming that risk has all been transferred to LAGP.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good.
the majority of it has. There are still obligations that the city has, of course, to perform, providing the land. And then we've also made commitments in regards to our responsiveness and turnaround time, expediting of permitting, et cetera. Before we went out with the procurement process, thanks to many of you and to the mayor's office, we actually secured an agreement with all of the other city departments about how, and there's an MOU, a formal MOU that exists for the LAMP program specifically on turnaround times, performance, prioritizing. LAWA is helping to provide resources to some of those departments where there's a need as well. To support this level of program activity. So there are some of those responsibilities on the city that would create a problem if we don't perform those
Sure.
as specified.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. So the airport recently announced the upgrade of your bond rating. How is this going to, will this reduce some of the project costs now that we have a better bond rating?
No, and it probably will not. But we were very happy to hear the bond rating finally increase. I mean, it had been over 13 years, and the rating agencies actually have a very good view now with this project being public of actually what we're going to be taking out capital to build. And so there's a lot of strength in the market that's here at LAX, how we're executing on our projects, and how we're managing our projects. And I think this project and the P3 delivery actually speaks to building confidence in the financial markets. As in this particular project, the development team is actually using private equity to fund their portion of their equity in the project. And then we will be issuing bonds over the course of time to make the milestone payments. I don't expect that there's going to be significant cost savings because we're from what we have planned today. Financially, because we see interest rates starting to creep up once again. But we've modeled in some protection if interest rates are to increase significantly, and our financial forecasts are based on that with, I think, a very good sense of conservatism for changes in the market, whether that's in our passenger activity, again, like in the facility forecast for this CONRAC, or in interest rates increases as well.
Exciting. This is an exciting item before us. This is yet another giant leap of becoming a world-class airport, and leadership.
And a first-class neighbor.
And a first-class neighbor. Sorry, Mike. I forgot about that. So your leadership, your entire executive team, and the men and women of LAWA is really advancing these efforts, and just a job generator for our region. So congratulations, and I don't see any objection to this. I don't hear any objection. So with that, we'll approve this item and send this to council tomorrow. Congratulations. Great work. Great work. Thank you.
Thanks, Jake.
So what we'll do now, we have Mr. Bonin here. We'll reconsider all the items.
Yes, sir.
Items 1 to 10. We took, Mike, we took consent, 3 and 11 on consent. Is there anything on that agenda, on the agenda you want to pull?
3 and 11?
Yeah. 3 through 11.
No, not at all.
Okay. So with that, we'll, with Mr. Bonin here, we'll approve all items that's before us without objection. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining us, and we are now adjourned. Thank you.